Working Drummer.
Now kick it.
This is the Working Drummer Podcast, serving up perspectives, experiences, and stories from ground-level working pros. Advice, tips, and secrets on how to build a career in the music business.
Hey everybody, this is Matthew Krause, and you are listening to the podcast Working Drummer. Drummer Russ Whitman is my guest today. For the past 6 years, he has been the powerhouse drummer behind country singer and Grand Ole Opry member Craig Morgan. Before Russ moved to Nashville to work with Craig, he was proving himself as a solid drummer in South Carolina, whether it was as a member of a highly respectable Journey tribute band or working with a variety of artists in the Carolina beach music scene. At an early age, Russ discovered a passion for drum corps and was heavily involved in a variety of DCI groups, including Carolina Crown and Carolina Gold. This experience with DCI has been a benefit to his drum set playing as well as his teaching. As always, you can go to workingdrummer.net to find out about this podcast and other podcasts we've done. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can leave a comment and subscribe to this podcast by going to iTunes. Your comments and ratings and reviews really help us grow. So in Nashville, there are two great drum companies, Mapex and Sonar, distributed through a company called KHS America. And I recently approached them about the possibility of supporting our podcast, and they said, you know what, come to our office and check out and play this new entry-ish level Mapex kit that we are running a holiday promotion on. Okay. So the idea was more or less, if you dig the kit, talk about it. If not, we'll think of something else. They wanted me to have a real experience, and so yeah, I played it. It sounded great. Now, it's been a while since my first kit, but I have to say I lucked out and got a great kit for the money, and it got me through college and into my professional playing years. I think those kinds of well-made entry and mid-level kits are hard to find these days, but this Mapex kit is a killer-sounding and great-looking kit. It's called the Mapex Storm, and the kit I played was 1 up, 2 down, 12, 14, 16, 18 by 22 kick, and a matching snare, Planet Z Zildjian cymbals, crash, ride hi-hat, and of course all the hardware needed for that setup. I have to be honest, the kick pedal design was not my cup of tea, as it was a heelless plate, but it also tells me that Mapex is not afraid to think outside the box. The street price, as they call it, for all those drums, with hardware and cymbals, for this promotion is $7.99. MapexDrums.com is where you can go check out the Storm series and find your nearest Mapex dealer. And I realize that there are those of you listening right now who have moved beyond this level, but if you know a student, a church, or anyone looking for a complete, great-sounding kit, the Storm series by Mapex just might be the answer. So here you go. Here is Russ Whitman.
I'll do my drumline thing because we're going to do the drumline at every drummer jam now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'll actually start working on music for that soon, trying to figure out who's going to play in the drumline for that night for the Steve Smith one that's coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's public knowledge yet, but it is.
Yeah, I think Smith. It is. Yeah, I think it is.
So I'll do that. You know, if they want me to play a tune, it's funny because one of the gigs I played before I was with Craig was a Journey tribute band, Frontiers out of Roanoke, Virginia.
Yeah. And
the singer in that band actually had ties to the real band because he was going to be the new singer for Journey.
Holy
Journey
God.
actually flew him out to San Francisco. He rehearsed with them for a month, wrote 2 of the songs that's on the Revelations album, and when it was time to go on tour, he couldn't do it because his wife was pregnant and they were going to stay out for over a year. So he literally turned that gig down. The only reason Arnell is in Journey is because Jeremy said no and left because he couldn't get along with Neil Sean. Bottom line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what was Jeremy's?
Hunsicker.
Jeremy
Hunsicker. And he just quit. He got a bunch of money and royalties off that Revelations album because it shipped platinum.
Yeah.
It was a double album. Walmart pre-ordered 500,000 copies of it. So his first royalty check was for a platinum album.
Oh, my God.
So he made a lot of money off that first check. Of course, like everybody else, he blew through it like crazy. He started a Journey tribute band. He said, hey, I can still do Journey. I'm just going to do it on my own terms, you know? So they were...
So I'm going to do a Journey tribute band and see how much money I can lose in a short amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. It was good for a while, I'm not going to lie. He hired me, and it's funny how I got the gig with that band. They were playing in Myrtle Beach in my hometown at a place called the Beach Wagon. And I went to go see him because there was all this story about this guy was, had ties to the real band or whatnot. So me and some buddies were like, let's go check him out, man. We were all big Journey fans,
Okay.
And so we got in there, and me and a couple buddies of mine that play at the Carolina Opry, which is this theater in Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
We were hanging out, and I knew the owner of the club. And we were commenced to pounding whatever, liquor device we decided to ram down our throats that night. And just hanging out, watching the show. The guys came out and played 3 or 4 songs, and they just stopped playing and walked off stage. And we're thinking, we're like, well, what's going on?
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to keep this PG. By the way,
You don't
I've got
have
a dirty mouth.
You don't. Hey, you don't.
You mean I don't have to put a filter on my mouth? I'm warning you, man.
No, all these have warnings on them.
Okay, all right, cool. Get this coffee down my throat and try not to cuss too much. But anyway, so we're like, what the hell's going on? Why did they quit playing?
Do they sound good?
They were good. I'm not gonna lie. The guys in the band were spot on. They weren't their typical tribute band is trying to look like them. Like Jeremy wasn't out there wearing tails and a wig, trying to look like Steve Perry from the '81 tour.
Right, marching around.
They just sounded really good.
Yeah.
So we're enjoying it, and the next thing I know, the owner of the club is tapping me on my shoulder from behind the bar because I have my back to the bar. He goes, "Hey, Russ," he goes, "do you know these songs?" I'm like, "I know some of them. I mean, some of the stuff, they're playing deep cuts that I don't know."
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, the singer's coming out to get you. Could you go in the green room with him?" And I guess I was the only drummer in there that they knew. And what happened is that day, you can't make this shit up, I'm telling you. That day, that band, when they got into town after Lowdown, they went to a Calabash seafood buffet.
Uh-oh.
All right?
Yeah.
They all ate the buffet except the drummer. He ordered off the menu.
Oh.
He got food poisoning.
Oh, no.
He started throwing up in the green room. Could not. I mean, he was deathly sick. Oh. So they sent him back to the hotel room.
Yeah.
The singer come out and got me. He said, "Are you Russ?" I was like, yeah. Nice to meet you. Sound great, by the way,
Yeah.
He goes, "Could you come in the green room with me real quick?" So I went back there, and the whole band sitting there. They're all just looking at me, and I'm like, "What in the hell's going on?" They're like, so our buddy, the club owner, said that you're a drummer and you might be able to help us out tonight.
Right.
Basically, our drummer's sick. We've already sent him back to the hotel room. Could you fill in and maybe get through these songs? Now, mind you, at the time, I'm about half lit. I had drank a lot already. And
but you didn't have food.
I'm looking at their set list. I'm like, well, I know this one. I know this one. I know this one. I know this one. I said, I've never even heard this song.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you'll be fine. It's just 4 on the floor. Oh, and by the way, all the background vocals are tracked. You have to hit the space bar to start every song. It's 4 clicks for you, 4 for the band we're in." Wow. So not only did I have to get through the songs, I had to play them pretty close to the album.
Yeah.
So the vocals would come in right. So I'm like, this is going to be a total train wreck. I'm about lit, But anyway, I got up there. The second song, the first song was Separate Ways. I'm like, okay, I know this one.
Yeah.
So, of course, the band is like, they don't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
And they're just looking at me like, oh, my God, what are we doing? But the place was sold out. They didn't have no choice. There was 1,600 people in there.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Like, is it...
So, lo and behold, 45 minutes later, I'd made it through with no train wrecks. I didn't think nothing about it. Like, cool. They all thanked me, shake my hand at the end of the night. And whatever, the singer or the lead guitar player, Kenny C., a buddy of mine from Roanoke, buddy now, I didn't know him at the time. He said, "Hey, man, let me get your number, man, just in case anything."
You say no train wrecks, but I mean, how do you feel it went? I mean, did you feel like
honestly, the drummer that was playing before me was playing the parts close.
Yeah.
And not to say that I was playing them perfect, because I wasn't. But he was, oh God, how do I say this? I sound like a cocky asshole. His tuning was awful on his drums. So when I got up there to start, I tuned that whole kit before I even touched it. Because even out front, when I heard them playing the songs they were playing, I was like, man, that kit sounds awful. So I tuned the stuff up, and he didn't hit really hard.
Yeah.
To where, I hit like a freight train. So I wasn't trying to break the guy's stuff. I did crack one of his cymbals, but that's what you get when you're using 16-inch crash cymbals. Sorry, I apologize. My hi-hats are bigger than that, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, and I was like, so when we hit the first note of Separate Ways, the guys in the band literally turned around and looked at me and were like, okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. And you could see the crowd, like, they had their back to the stage when it came out. And everybody turned around, and of course it's my hometown, so I knew a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
So of course everybody was like, "Why in the hell is Russ up there playing with these guys right now?" Because nobody in the crowd knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So, but I honestly think it went good.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it was flawless because it was not.
Yeah.
But so anyway, my buddy that owned the club paid my tab that night, which was really high for me saving their asses. And the next day, I was sitting at home, and my phone rang, and it was a number I didn't recognize, and I answered it, and it was the singer and the lead guitar player from that band. They were like, "Dude, you really did great last night with no rehearsal, got us through the show. We like the way you hit the drums, blah, blah, blah. How would you like the gig full-time?" So they fired the other guy.
Yeah.
And I felt terrible. I was like, "Man, what are you on? It's your drummer, man." He's like, we used him to put this out on the road. It was only like their fourth show.
Okay.
And they weren't sold on him anyway, evidently. But anyway, they let that guy go, and I met them in Raleigh, North Carolina on the road like the next weekend. And then they gave me the set list, and I went home and really practiced the stuff. So it was fun for a while, and the money was good.
Yeah.
And then things started, and we were doing like House of Blues, some of the bigger clubs, Club La Vila, the bigger clubs, and we were playing 8 to 10 gigs a month.
I always wonder about that. I always wonder about tribute bands like that.
Frontiers was one of the top tribute bands in the country for a couple of years. I mean, you had 1964, which was the Beatles tribute, which is the highest paid tribute band in the world. Those guys gross $1 million a year doing a tribute band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and the Beatles tribute band is a completely, almost a different entity in its own. And I've talked to some players that work in multiple Beatle tribute bands, and sometimes they share like, "Hey, I'm a John, I'm available, I have all the costumes," and so they'll go work with this Beatle tribute band in Vegas, and then they'll come to New York and play with a different, they all have the same uniforms, they all have the same costumes, and know the same material. It's really, I always wonder how cool it would be to be in a tribute band, or would it just be hell to play those same songs over and over? That's where I
ran into it toward the end when the money, we were literally selling out every place we played because Jeremy had this tie to the real bands. I think it was more curiosity than anything. People were coming out to say, "Okay, let's see if this guy's got the pipes." And he did.
Yeah.
Not only did he sound, he had the rasp. He sounded just like Perry. He even looked like him in the face, which was really weird. When the first time I saw him, I was like, "Hey, this dude even kind of looked." He didn't have the long hair and stuff like that, but like the facial features were there, and the voice like blew me away. How close.
So what's he doing now? Are they still?
After I left the band, he kept it going for another 2 years, I think.
Okay.
And some other friends of mine had come in and out of that band playing, but since then, I haven't talked to Jeremy in a long time. I see stuff on Facebook. We, might send a message to each other every now and then. There was no bad blood or anything like that. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Sure.
And so I think the last time that I had heard, he had literally lost his voice doing that stuff that many gigs a year. He blew his voice out just like Perry, Jerry, all the other ones just destroyed their voice. Arnell now, the band's a half step down already.
Oh, the real band.
Oh yeah. Arnell ain't singing that stuff in the right key. He's already losing his voice. You cannot sing that stuff every night. I don't know how Jeremy did it as long as he did, because he smoked, he drank, he didn't take care of his voice at all. I don't know how he could go on stage and hit those songs.
Yeah,
and we were doing stuff like had some super high notes in it. It always floored me at first when I was playing in the band, because I'm sitting here, playing the songs. And it was almost like playing with the real band. His voice was so spot on. The guys in the band were so good. Kenny, Isaiah, Greg, the guys that I was touring with. And so it was a lot of fun. But about a year into it, I'd had enough, man. I was like, man, it was fun, but I didn't want to be that guy. You know, I was like, man, I don't want to try to pretend to be somebody else every night.
Yeah.
Living off somebody else's stuff and fame. Mm-hmm. You know, it just became a thing where I was just like, I'd had about enough of it, to be honest with you. And this other gig came along. That was a local gig for me.
Okay.
It was more around my area. On
so
the
what
coast.
was that? What was that?
That was that was what they consider East Coast beach music.
Yeah. And I had never
chairman of the board, the Embers, all those big bands that were the movie Shag. That came out in the 80s, was all about Myrtle Beach area, East Coast shagging. It's a type of dance, and if you're not from that area, I can't even begin to explain it to you. It's something in the southeast,
right
on the coast. It's Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Mostly South Carolina is where it all started. Yeah. North Carolina, Georgia, some Florida, some Virginia, Maryland, but you get out of those areas, nobody even knows what that stuff is.
I had never heard of it.
Those bands on that circuit are huge in that area. Right. They've got Prevos, 18-wheelers, full production. I mean, the stuff's big. And the guy that came to me, he came to me and he said, listen, I want you to play with my band. And what are you making now? And I told him, he goes, I can beat that big time.
Oh, wow.
I said, what are we talking? And he told me the number. And I was be stupid to pass it up.
Yeah.
You know, so I put my notice in with Frontiers and went straight to work with him.
And what was that group?
Craig Woolard. He was the lead singer of the Embers, which was one of the biggest beach music bands there ever was. And
now, see, I had never heard of that until
nobody, unless you're from that area, knows what that stuff is.
Right. I had a chance to talk to Lee Kelly, and he brought it up. And
Lee's from the area.
Gave me the whole
about that stuff.
He grew up on it and gave me the whole rundown on it. And then Zach, my co-host, moved to Atlanta in January, and he's been working a ton. And he's been working with some local musicians, and they'll say, "Hey, we're going to do some beach music at this wedding."
Yeah.
And he's thinking, what are you talking about? Like reggae, like Jimmy Buffett,
exactly.
and like what?
Are you talking about Beach Boys? Because when you say beach music, that's what they're thinking. Dick Dale and the Beach Boys and stuff like that.
Right.
It's completely different on the East Coast.
He said he's been.
It's basically R&B, is what it is.
Okay.
You know, chairman of the board, the Embers. They're probably the two biggest ones, but there's so many more bands. That are like literally. There's a Triangle Beach Music Festival in Raleigh every year. 30,000 people.
Yeah, Lee told me.
It's insane. But, you know, I got into that world. And mind you, it's really big with sororities and fraternities in the SEC and in the ACC in that area of big football schools. To where one night we would play a sorority party.
Yeah.
And now, mind you, I was the youngest guy in the band by 15 years, easily. You know, right. And it was suits, matching outfits every night, full horn section. It was a 9 or 10-piece band.
Wow. I
mean, it was fun. It was basically like playing with the Temptations, to be honest with you.
Awesome.
And we did a lot of Craig's original stuff, and we did a lot of covers. But it's funny because in that world, everything is 112 to 120. Because that's the tempos that old white people can dance to, man. You know what I mean? It's like everything is that tempo.
What kind of covers?
You literally have to know beats.
What kind of covers?
Oh, man, we would do Journey.
Okay.
Believe it or not, which I was like, am I ever going to be able to get away from this? But we would do Journey. We would literally mold the set list to whatever the clients wanted.
Okay, so
we didn't do a lot of clubs. It was mostly corporate stuff and weddings. Mm-hmm. We did do some clubs, and that's when it was basically straight up beach music.
Okay.
But we would do Stevie Wonder, Tower of Power.
Oh, cool.
Funky Meters, James Brown stuff, you know, because we had that horn section. All those horn players in that band were great players. So we could literally cover basically anything. I had 3 days. They called me. They emailed me a bore tape of their show. I literally locked myself in my rehearsal area in Myrtle Beach for 14 hours a day for 3 days. I only left to go use the bathroom and to eat, seriously, to learn Craig's show. Because I was like, this is the chance I've got to get on a big gig, and I don't want to screw this up. They called me. They said, here, you've literally got to fly up to Nashville next week and go out on the road with us. not as playing because Mike was still playing drums at the time.
Yeah.
They said, learn the show.
Yeah.
They honestly told me, they said, just learn the first half of the show.
Yeah.
And then come out with us on the road, and you can watch Mike play the show. You sit in with us at sound check and run a couple songs. Craig won't be there. The band's going to make the decision. So me being OCD as I am, I learned the whole show just in case. The solo sections, everything. When I flew up to Nashville, Travis come and picked me up from the airport. Stayed with him that weekend. That night we had bus call, and I went out and met on the bus with them, went to the show with them. They had a bunk for me. They set up everything that next day at the show in Illinois. I remember it. I was just nervous, dude. You have no idea. I was like, I have not had enough time to prepare. And then they set up everything. They did a quick sound check of their stuff, and then Mike was like, hey, man, come up and play some songs with the band. Mm-hmm. There was no vocals. I was trying to sing the stuff.
I know, yeah.
But I had charts, man, because I literally charted everything out, because there's no way I could have memorized that much of stuff that quick. And
how much was it? I mean, how many?
It was almost 20 songs, but the show... the show with Craig is not as simple as most shows. You never know what he's going to do.
Okay.
At the time, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I got up there at sound check and played one song, and all of a sudden, Craig comes up out of nowhere, goes to the monitor world, give me my ears, puts his stuff in, wants to sing.
Yeah.
I'm like, crap, he was not supposed to be here. So that just made it twice as bad. Yeah. I was like, oh, really? Now I got to shit the bed in front of him too, right? And so Craig started rattling off songs, and thankfully I learned the whole show, because I don't know if he was doing it to screw with me or not, but he was calling off songs that I wasn't supposed to know, but I knew them anyway.
Yeah.
And it's not like I played them great, but I knew them, and I got the clicks and everything, and got through it somehow. So I played my stuff, got done. Nobody really said anything. I didn't know. I knew I was nervous. I knew I didn't kill the audition, put it that way. But I knew the parts.
Yeah.
And so nothing was really said. Craig came up to me about a couple hours later, shook my hand, said, thanks for coming out. So, the first thing that pops in my head is like, I didn't get this shit at all.
Right.
All right, back to beach music. Here I come.
Yeah.
Which I had a buddy of mine filling in for me with that band while I was doing the audition.
Okay, you covered yourself.
Yeah, I covered myself back home.
Right.
Another great drummer here that lives in Nashville, Adam Barber. He lives in town. He's mostly doing, I think, Lower Broadway. So I haven't talked to Adam in a while, but
his name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he moved up to Lower Broadway. I think he plays with the house band at Tootsie's for the celebration thing they do every year.
Okay,
and he does a lot of stuff on Broadway. And I know he's toured with some other acts too, but I really don't know. I haven't talked to him in quite a while.
Okay,
great player, MI guy. So Adam was covering for me with Craig Woolard while I was doing the audition for Craig Morgan. And literally I went back, stayed with Travis that weekend, had a good time. The Monday morning I flew back to Myrtle Beach. Didn't think nothing about it. I was like, I didn't get it, whatever. I still got a gig. Mm-hmm. Went back to my normal life of beach music.
But took a chance.
I took a chance,
Sure.
I mean, why not,
Yeah.
And I had nothing to lose. I had a guy covering my gig. Woolard was cool with it, Mm-hmm. I said, hey, man, it's a good opportunity. I said, when I told you I would play with you, he said, give me a year.
Yeah.
And don't walk out on me until it's been a year. And it was almost a year to the date that they called me the audition for Craig Morgan.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wouldn't really, I had fulfilled my contract with him. And he was cool about it. Still cool to this day. I still talk to him all the time. So I flew back, went back out on the road with Craig Woolard. Didn't think nothing about it. I didn't hear anything. So I was like, I didn't get it. There's a million guys in Nashville could have got this gig that were already here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So 2 weeks later, I forgot what night of the week it was, me and some buddies of mine were out at a bar called Stool Pigeons in Myrtle Beach. The bar was about to shut down. It was like 2 a.m. I'm hammered drunk. And my cell phone rings, and it's from a blocked number. So I didn't think nothing about it. Who knows? God knows my past in Myrtle Beach. That could have been any amount of anybody calling me in the middle of the night with a blocked number. And so I didn't think nothing about it, and I just hit deny and went back to drinking and talking to my buddies at the bar. And it rang again, like 5 minutes later from a blocked number again. I denied it again. So then Travis calls me. He goes, "Hey, man, that's Craig calling. You answer the phone." So I answered the phone, and I said, "Hello?" He goes, "Is this Russ?" And you got to know Craig in Craig's voice. I said, "Yes, Russ. Who's this?" "Craig Morgan." "Hey, Craig, you got the gig, son. I'll see you in 2 weeks." Click. That's all that was said. And so I literally had about 2 weeks to get my whole life, from Myrtle to Nashville. I was a marching guy. I didn't care two shits about a drum set.
Yeah.
I was a marching guy, and that's all I wanted to do for years.
Yeah.
I didn't really start playing drum set till around 99, 2000. That's it.
Really?
Yeah. I was completely rudimental guy. That's all I did. Marching. Now, mind you, I did play when I was younger. My dad was a drummer as well. Okay, and he played in bar bands and stuff when I was a kid, and played in church and stuff like that. I know it's kind of funny, bar band, church, whatever. But that's where I started as well, was playing in my granddad's church, because they had a full band in his church. Mm-hmm. And I was just, my dad had drums around the house. I'd go bang on them. He would teach me how to play basic 4/4, rock grooves or whatever, and I could play them back to him. So I guess it was just in the blood. Right. I had rhythm.
But it sounds like
you want to call it that, whatever.
Well, drum set was your dad's thing, and
it was. And that was my thing when I first started. But it's not like I was did that the whole time. I did it for a few years. Once I got into school and started taking band, I wanted to learn how to read. I got infatuated with it. I wanted to learn it all. But when you get into beginning band, you're not playing kit.
No,
you're playing snare drum.
Right.
And I was already way more developed as a drummer than anybody else in beginning band was, because I already been playing for a few years and sitting in with a few songs in my granddad's church with their band or whatever it may be. But not to say I was like light years ahead of them, because I wasn't, but I understood drums. Mm-hmm. I knew the difference between a crash cymbal and a snare drum, put it that way. Mm-hmm. Some of these kids starting off beginning band, they had no idea how to even set their snare drum in the stand. Mm-hmm. Those cheap, rental snare drums you get when you're in beginning band. But, the band director took a liking to me because I had some kind of a background in it. Yeah. And he pushed me. Mm-hmm. He was a big drum and bugle corps guy, which is where he's the main reason. Okay. Mitchell Lewis was my first band director, and he's actually a superintendent of the whole school district that I grew up in now. But he was the band. My first band director was Mitchell Lewis, and I can thank that man for everything that I've done in my whole entire life, drumming wise, because he exposed me to stuff at a super early age that nobody else was getting exposed to. Okay. In 5th grade, he handed me a copy of Moving Pictures by Rush. That changed my life, man. Yeah. Like probably every drummer you've interviewed on here. Right. I mean, Rush is where it started for everybody. Yeah. I mean, that I know anyway. At some point, if they say it didn't, they're full of shit. You know what I mean? Rush has had some kind of, and Neil Peart has had some kind of influence on every drummer that I know. Right. Whether it be good or bad, there's some kind of influence there. Right. Right. And so he handed me that, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard, because at that point, all I heard was Lars Ulrich and Charlie Benante. That was literally, and Dave Lombardo. I was into the whole thrash scene at the time. And he turned my head to Rush. Yeah. And Dave Weckl and guys like that. Right. And, I'm telling you the same story probably every drummer that you've interviewed has. I get it. But he turned me to that direction. I was like, this is really cool. But what really flipped the switch for me was when I was in the 9th grade. It was my freshman year of high school. He took me to a drum and bugle corps show across town at a rival high school that they hosted a big one every year. Mm-hmm. And like Cadets of Bergen County, Carolina Crown, Star of Indiana, like all the big boys were there. Yeah.
How old were you at the time?
I was 15. Okay. 14 or 15, somewhere in there.
Sure.
And I was already into marching band in high school. I made the high school snare line when I was in the 8th grade. Mm. So I was already exposed to that marching world. Mm-hmm. But I had seen videos of the drum corps stuff. He was giving me old VHS tapes to take home to check out these old school, mid to late 80s badass drum lines, Vanguard,
Mm-hmm.
Madison Scouts were like the defending champions from '88, and it's funny because Keith Dudek was in that snare line.
Okay,
and I didn't know him then. I know him now.
Yeah,
but and then even Kevin Murphy, 90 Madison Scouts. There's a lot of drum corps guys that are playing big gigs in this town.
Right.
And so when I saw those VHS tapes of those old drum and bugle corps, that was like, I've got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that I wanted to do. When I saw them line up and start ramming notes and flipping sticks, I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. You're young, you're like, because at the time I was in a high school drum line and we were okay, but it was like, it wasn't at that level by any means, and I was just like, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And then he took me to a show and I saw it in person. He went out in the lot, saw the warm up arcs, took me in, took me to the show, and it was just, I was completely blown away by it. And I said at that point, I'm going to make one of these drum lines. Mm-hmm. And the next year, I went and auditioned for Carolina Crown at 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I made the drum line.
Okay.
The bass line. My first year at Carolina Crown.
Okay.
And, dude, that was just, from there on, it was just marching for me. I could have cared less about a drum set. I didn't even touch a drum set again until I was probably 24, 25 years old.
Wow.
After I had already done my drum corps stuff, aged out, couldn't do it no more. Then I went to senior corps and did that for 2 years with a corps called Carolina Gold out of Raleigh, North Carolina, who Chris Williams also marched with.
Okay.
After I left, he was in that same drum line. There's a lot of ties, drum lines wise, because it's almost like a fraternity.
Sure.
Once you've done that level of marching percussion, you can go up to a guy that's done it, and dude, I didn't even know guys like Tom Hurst, Kevin Murphy, Dudek, Chris Williams, all these marching guys that were in this town. It's like the first time I met Kevin and Tom, it's just instant camaraderie.
Yeah.
It is. It's instant. Oh, you marched these years? Cool, I marched these years. You know this lick? Yeah, man, that's cool. Check this lick out.
Yeah.
It's instant, and it's always going to be like that for me, with anybody that's drum corps wise.
It's interesting that, the community of drummers is a strong community across the country.
Yeah.
And my theory was always, drummers never have to work together because there's mostly one drummer in a band.
Most of the time.
Right. But you're talking about something completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's nothing but drummers that are doing this. Now, I never did drum corps, so I'm really fascinated with that brotherhood that is created, the type of player you become.
Yeah.
And so many of the great players that come out of that experience, like Tom and Kevin. Yeah. And you, dude, man, you sounded great. The few times I've heard you play.
I'm good enough to fake it.
Well, so one of the things I was thinking I wanted to ask you is those of us that didn't have that experience, but kind of want to get a little bit of advice on what can we do to kind of keep our hands going the way you guys always have. Man, it's like, I stay on my pad, man. It's nothing that I'll ever quit doing. Yeah. Every day I hit my pad. Because honestly, right now I'm working with Zach Stewart over at McGavick High School, teaching the drumline there. I've been there for a few years. Zach's been there longer than me. It's his program. I'm just helping him out when I'm home. But he's another great marching guy, great drum set player. Plays with Josh Thompson right now. But when I moved to town, I was kind of burned out on the drumline thing, and I didn't really want to do it anymore. And then I ended up meeting a guy that offered me a teaching spot at Brentwood High School. I did that for 1 year. I was like, okay, that's enough. I'm done. Didn't think I'd do it ever again. I was kind of burned out on it, to be honest with you. And stuff was going well with Craig. Yeah. So I'm like, well, let me concentrate on my kit playing for a while because it sucks ass. I got to get better at it, I gotta get in the pocket, man. Because I had all the facilities hand wise that you could ever want. Right. But putting it onto a drum set and making it feel good and stuff like that, I learned everything back asswards, dude. I learned all the chops and didn't learn the groove. Now, to this day, I'm still learning how to lay it right in the pocket, because it's a completely different world. Now, the drum corps got me to where I can play anything that I hear. I think that's what I'm trying.
Facility-wise,
that's what I'm getting at is that there's those of us Now, granted, I did grow up on Rush too, as
Yeah.
well, but I didn't come from the chops end of things.
Yeah.
So for me, I was always resigned to, okay, what can I do within my facility and concentrate on groove, and then I get called for that. I get called, and I want to pursue that and
absolutely.
be influenced by that. But there's times I wish I had more facility, and I like to spend time on the pad.
Yeah.
So I hear guys throwing out all these terms as far as...
Oh, God, drum corps has its own language, dude.
It does.
Drumline guys we have a complete... If you didn't know what we were talking about and you walked into a conversation, you would think we were literally lost our minds.
So I can walk to Forks and go get a book on Afro-Cuban or whatever. But
that has
what
its own language as well.
Right. So I want to get my hands together. Where can I go to find this stuff? Or is it strictly private lessons or trying
that's
to...
going to help you being around other drumline guys. And what I was leading up to when you asked me that really is I hit the pad every day still to keep my hands up, because I've got to teach these kids, and these kids' hands these days are just dumb. They're playing at a level now that I have to keep my hands in shape to stay above them.
Why is that?
Because it's the YouTube generation, man. These kids now, when me and Murphy and Tom and these guys that, it's Zach and Dudek and Williams and all these guys that are like, we all came up in that same era, to where back then, if a piece of music was passed around like a warm-up book from a drum corps, dude, it might as well have been the Holy Bible put in your hand. Because we didn't have the World Wide Web back then, and where these kids now have access to everything.
Right.
Which is awesome. Now, I couldn't even imagine where I would be if I had that coming up, because I busted my ass on the pad at home every day, working on stuff that I just would like watch videos and try to figure out what they were doing. That were like, but they never, those VHS tapes never zoomed in on the drum lines. You were trying to having to listen. Well, this is what I think they're doing right here. But now these kids have access to everything. I got kids at McGavick that can play most of Blue Devils or Carolina Crown or Blue Coats World Championship book from this past summer already. Wow. They have access to it because everything's on YouTube now.
Yeah.
You don't need private lessons anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know how guys even make a living doing it anymore, because everything is so accessible online.
Right.
Is
there anything that you find yourself you have to undo? Like maybe they've learned it the wrong way because they just...
Well, yeah, there is technique stuff. Let's mind you, they are still 15 to 17-year-old kids. Just because they can figure out a lick and hack it out, don't mean that they're playing it with good quality of sound, good heights, good technique, diddles consistent, whatever, flam spacing consistent. All that can be taught by guys that's been doing it forever.
Yeah.
But these kids are smart enough to figure it out on their own. You really, in better programs like McGavick around town, and there's other great programs in this town as well, but, I'm referencing them because that's where I teach at, is these kids now, they're great players,
Yeah.
Rudimentally, it's funny because guys come to me that are on big gigs that don't have this background like what you're asking me now. Hey, man, can you work with me? Can you show me some stuff to build my hands up? Absolutely. I'm not going to charge my buddies to show them how to play 8 on a hand. Come on, man. It's all about breaking it back down to the basics. It's rudiments. Yeah. Guys will learn how to play the coolest Nirvana song or God, I can't even believe I just referenced Nirvana, but whatever the newest, these kids want to learn the coolest thing that's, and these guys like Cooper Drummer on YouTube and stuff like that, they're playing covers of other people's crap.
Yeah.
And the kids are learning how to play all these gospel chop licks and kits and stuff, but they're not learning rudiments. The drumline kids are, because that's all they care about.
Yeah.
But most of the guys overlook that because they want to go straight to kit.
Yeah.
That's like being able to play leads on a guitar and not know how to play chords.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
You got to know your rudiments.
Right.
And if you can work those rudiments, it's going to make everything easier.
Right.
You get into a drum fill on a kit and, okay, well, my left hand has to be here, then I know that I'm going to need to do a paradiddle on that floor tom to get my left hand back open. It's all rudiments. And, of course, that's the simplest way to put it.
Sure.
But that makes everything easier.
Yeah.
You know? And I still work that stuff. It's for me, it's well beyond 5-strokes and 7-stroke rolls at this point.
Yeah.
But I work stuff like cheese de chuttas and book reports, flam drags that I have like,
Yeah.
and just compound hybrid rudiments because the activity's pushing.
So
It
no,
pushes
seriously.
every gear.
So those compound rudiments I've never done before.
Yeah.
And I would totally love to get into that.
Yeah.
So if anybody else is like, where would I go to find that? Where would I go to discover that and learn how to do it?
Discover it watching. I'm gonna tell you just what you watching YouTube videos, man.
Okay.
There is, I promise you, there's somebody on YouTube that will break down every rudiment you can think of.
Gotcha.
And if you personally want any help from me or any, of course, I'd be glad to show you that stuff and write it out for you. I've showed it to a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Walking like Ben Caesar, you walk in his house, he's got a dry erase board. Hey man, what was that you were playing? In Ben's
right,
voice,
exactly.
It's like, I'll chart it out for you. So I write it out on the chalkboard. He goes, oh, okay, I see it now.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
guys like Ben, they have the facility to play this stuff. They just never been exposed to it.
But what are you doing though to work on groove?
Me, honestly, I almost, at this point, playing with Craig, because I played the song so many times, every night that I walk on stage, I try to find something else in the show that I can work on. Whether it be where I'm laying the snare, where I'm laying the kick drum, in my head, and trying to bury that click to where I can't hear it. But sometimes being so dead on top of that click, when I listen back to board tapes, even though I know I was dead on that night, I didn't play one note off that click.
Yeah.
I go back and listen to it, and it didn't feel right.
Right.
You know what I
right,
mean? It
right.
didn't. To me, it didn't.
So you're listening, you're recording, and you're listening.
Oh
to
yeah,
yourself.
I listen back as much as I can.
Yeah.
And then finding like cameras, cell phone crap of people on YouTube that recorded our shows. Every now and then, I'll dig around on YouTube just to listen to the band, hear what we sound like out front. Just to see. Okay, am I really laying this in like I feel I am?
Yeah.
Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. It's dude. It's ongoing. It's never going to be right for me.
Oh, I believe it.
I
mean, I'm not talking about you.
For anybody.
I mean, the royal
drummers, period.
Right, exactly.
We're a bunch of OCD.
Yeah.
Constantly searching for the. It's like a guitar player and his freaking pedal board.
Well, that's why I'm asking you about
finding that groove.
That's why I'm asking you about the rudiments, man. I never want to stop learning.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
like, even though when those opportunities came my way when I was younger, I was like, no, I really want to stay on drum set. I don't want to do that, and there weren't quite the opportunities where I was for drum corps. Well, I take that back. It didn't ring my bell the way it did
a lot of
for
people,
you.
It doesn't. Yeah.
But when I see players like you and other players that grew up in that world work around the drum set, I'm like, oh, I want to hit the drums that hard when I need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that clarity that comes out of the rudimental facility that you guys have.
Yeah.
How do I get there?
Precision thing,
Yeah. How do I get there?
You do it so much that when you sit down on a kid, it just becomes second nature.
Yeah.
The precision of the rudimental stuff anyway.
But what about the feet, man?
Feet, as far as the drumline world goes, you could be, your feet are everything in a drumline. That's your tempo, your feet moving together in that snare line, making sure that foot's planting right on that downbeat together as you're moving across that field.
Yeah.
So the feet were always there. Now, of course, it's left foot lead, left, right most of the show, unless you're playing in 7/8 and you start skip stepping and stuff like that. But when you get onto the kit, honestly, when I started playing kit and got serious with it, of course, I was a metal guy. So growing up, the double bass was everything to me,
Okay.
And which I don't use at all anymore.
Oh, really?
Except the very ending of the show when I play a completely out of place blast beat at the end of a country music show. But I grew up in Columbia, where grew up when I was younger before I moved to the beach. Man, I was around guys like Derek Roddy. I mean, he's from my hometown. The father of the blast beat. The guy's the fastest guy on earth, And I would go out and sneak into bars just to watch this guy play, and I'm like, that dude's feet are just retarded, man. It's like he was so fast and effortlessly fast that I was like, I got into that to where I was working. What I would do is go home and sit on a double pedal on a practice pad and play rudiments with my feet.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty much everybody's going to do that same thing. To where I was like playing paradiddles, and it's not like I have great feet fast, I don't use it anymore. But, Feet, I work just like I work my hands.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So I had the facility with my feet by themselves. I had the facility with my hands by themselves. Getting on the kit and putting that all together and making it sound like a drum set player and not a drum line guy that's trying to play drum set. Because I know a lot of those guys that it's funny because you could talk to any of the guys that I've mentioned in the drumline world. You would not believe, even in the best drum lines in the world right now, there may be one or two guys in that whole percussion section that can even play a kit. It's a different world.
But that was my mindset when I was a kid, though. I was like, no, I'm not into that. I'm concentrating on drum set. I don't even want to get...
They don't want to do both. They pick one.
I don't want to get distracted by something that's not drum set.
Yeah,
And now I look back in hindsight and I see guys like you play and I'm going, oh, crap, that would have been good for me.
or been completely counterproductive.
Well, that's true. I guess it depends on who you are.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
When I signed up, went to the recruiter, signed my life away, I told him, he goes, what do you think you would want to do in the Navy? And of course, everybody's like, I want to be a Navy SEAL. I want to be a badass sniper on a mountain range somewhere. But 1 out of every 10,000 guys get through that training. I'll go into that crap later. But I was like, man, I can do some drumming. That'd be cool. Get paid to be in the military and bang on some drums, you know. So I told him I was interested in trying to get into the Navy band. And so he picked me up one day from Columbia, South Carolina. I met him at the recruiter's office, and we drove down to Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida.
Wow.
And they knew I was coming, and they had an audition process set up for me. So I walked into the room. I had basically, it was a 4-hour audition. It was brutal.
Wow.
And at the time, I was 19 years old, man. I was in way over my head. But I went in there, they wanted me to do all my rudiments, open, closed, open. That means starting the slowest, speeding them up, slowing them back down, keeping it smooth, all the way to the fastest you can play them back open. You know, this was typical, easy process for me. It's the same thing basically as an all-state audition in high school. Mm-hmm. So I played through all my rudiments, open, closed, open. I play a prepared snare solo, which I don't even remember what. I think it was, what was the name? Tornado or something like that. One of the hardest. Back then it was anyway. That was kind of like the grade 6 snare solo that everybody played to prove how alpha male they were back then, you know. So I played Tornado through. And mind you, I'd already had a year of drum corps under my belt. 2 years, actually, before this happened.
Okay.
So my hands were on point at that time. So I played through all that stuff, and they were just like, holy crap, where did you come from? Because a lot of drum corps guys are not going to go into the Navy band. They're drum set players.
Right.
So I did all that. Sight read a snare solo, you know. Then they moved me to mallets. Had to play all my scales on the marimba in every mode. Had to play a prepared marimba piece. Had to sight read marimba. And then I moved to timpani. And then I moved to drum set, where I played. They asked me to play in different styles. You know, and then they brought their top 40 ensemble in, and I played with their band. This was all in the audition. It was 4 hours.
Wow.
My brain was rotten getting prepared for this. I basically put myself through my own boot camp getting ready for the audition because I knew I wanted to get in. All said and done, at the end of the day, the guys, I came out of the room at the end. I waited around for about 30 minutes. The guys came out. It was a chief and a first-class petty officer. And they said, man, your scores were great. We think we can get you into Little Creek MUA school. Now, mind you, most of the guys that go into the military bands have degrees. So I was in way over my head. I had no completed degree. I was 19 years old. I think they were going to try to push me in because my hands.
Okay.
They wanted more of a marching guy than they wanted a drum set player. And he told me that. He goes, dude, your rudimental skills are just better than anybody we've got right now already at 19. He said, but your drum set skills, we can teach you that.
Yeah.
You know, because we have drum set players. We need guys to do parades and whatever dignitary crap they needed me to do. I was like, awesome. I can get into MUA school. And he said, it's going to be 6 months of some pretty intense.
Oh, MUA. What's that?
Musician is MU in the Navy.
Okay.
That's your job, MU, musician. A school was like the 6-month school at Little Creek, Virginia. They basically send you to basically refresh you on theory and explain to you how they want you to act and play and you carry yourself in the Navy bands.
Like boot camp.
Basically boot camp for musicians.
Okay.
Now, Billy Cobham went through that school, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Billy Cobham went through MUA school at Little Creek. So I was like, oh, awesome. This is great. I'm going to get into the Navy band. This is what I want to do. Now, here's where they got me.
Yeah.
They sent me to boot camp. I was in boot camp for 3 months, graduated, got out. And I was in boot camp for 3 months because the government shut down while I was in boot camp, by the way. Thank you, Bill Clinton. Added an extra almost month to my boot camp. So I get out. Detailer calls me. It's a guy that basically takes care of where you're going, your orders and all that crap when you're in the military. Detailer calls me. He's like, I got good news and bad news. He goes, the bad news is you passed the audition. There's no drum spots available right now.
Oy.
So you got to pick something else until something comes open. I was like, well, how long do you think that could be? He said it could be 6 months. It could be 6 years.
Oy.
So I'm like, okay, I'm already graduated boot camp. Thought I was going into the Navy band. Wasn't. And then, mind you, while I was in boot camp, they stuck me in a 900 division, which is, I got to play drums the whole time I was in boot camp for all the graduates that were coming.
Oh, right. Okay.
Before us, we would play and then played our own graduation. Then the next band came up.
Yeah.
And so what they would do is go and handpick guys they knew were musicians, singers, or drill team guys. And they put you in 900 divisions. They were called triple threat divisions. They were all musicians, singers, and drill team guys, like rifles and all that stuff.
Okay.
So I drummed the whole time I was in boot camp. The guy that was in charge of the drum corps in boot camp was a very high-ranking Navy band guy that had been in for 20-something years. And he knew that I'd already passed the audition, so he really come and got me and pulled me into that division because I was in a regular division. My first night, the second morning I woke up and that guy was screaming my name, come with me, you're in a different division now. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Because I went in on a buddy system with a guy I went to high school with, and we were bunk mates. We were settled in. We were going to get through boot camp together. And then they come snagged me and took me to a different division.
Wow.
And we were separated.
Okay.
So couldn't get into the Navy band. So he was like, dude, your ASVAB score was almost as maxed out when you took the test to come in.
Yeah.
And I made a 99 on the ASVAB to get into the military.
Yeah.
And not that I'm smart, I'm just really good at taking tests. I can figure out what ain't right. You know what I mean? I'm a dumb redneck, but I can kill a Scantron. But anyway, so I took the ASVAB, had a high score on it. I don't know to this day whether they did that on purpose or not to get me in so they could tell me that there wasn't a spot in the Navy band so they could push me in a direction they wanted to push me in anyway, which was into the nuke program, which is where I ended up. I was a nuclear electronics technician. The hardest school in all 4 branches of the military.
Jeez.
Yeah, I went into the nuke field because my scores were high enough to get in. I took the nuke test, passed it. So I went into the nuclear program, and at the time, I was young and stupid, and they were flashing a lot of money in front of my eyes. They said, if you'll go into the nuclear program, we will give you $30,000 up front, deposited into your account. After taxes, you'll see 20 of it. You know, and I'm like 19 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've got 20 grand being thrown at me, and they'll give me more if I can graduate the school. Because literally the dropout rate for this school is 10 out of every 100 can get through the school.
Oh, wow.
It's super intense. It's basically like a 6-year electronical engineering degree crammed into your head in 2 years.
Oy.
So it's like hardcore.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys won't go into that program because of how intense it is. And I was like, I think I can do it. Because I was just...
Did you go through the whole thing?
Yeah. Graduated top of my class.
Wow.
Yeah. So then
Were you playing drums during that time?
I was playing on my own.
Okay.
And they would let me take lessons to keep my hands up. They were letting me take lessons with the drummer that was stationed at the Navy band on that base. Okay. So I would go see him once a week. And at that time he wasn't working rudimental stuff with me because I could run circles around him. But he was working drum set stuff with me. Okay. So he was digging deep with me and learning a lot of Latin stuff. Yeah. Stuff that I had never been exposed to before. Sambas, bossa novas, merengue, Patita alto. I mean, he was digging deep in these linear rhythms and stuff,
Right.
like teaching me how to play this crap, which later on in life actually helped me out, because at the time I was like, this is cool. I can play all these different rhythms with each arm and leg at the same time. I'm a Billy Badass. No, I wasn't, but it was fun learning that stuff with him. And I was doing that once a week while I was in electronic school.
Okay.
So I graduated electronic school. The guy called me. My detailer said, basically, a spot came open. You've already graduated Nuke school.
Wow.
There's nothing I can do for you. They spent all that money training you. That's what you're going to be doing for the next 40 years before I can send you to MUA school. And I was like, shit. So it was good and bad. I'm glad I got that training. Yeah. I use absolutely none of it to this day, except I can solder like a sumbitch.
Are you doing what you want to do right now?
I think I am. I never thought I would end up in country music.
Yeah.
But I love the man that I work for. He's a very good friend of mine. He's a great dude. Me and Craig have so much in common, him being ex-military as well. And he served a lot longer than I did and went through a lot more stuff than I did in the military. But it's that common thread, that if he calls me tomorrow and says I'm done touring, unless something really, really good fell in my lap, I'm probably done, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
I don't let the drums define me. You know what I mean? I always loved it, but it's not my only thing that I love doing in this world.
Yeah.
I'd be just as happy living on a mountainside in Montana, building guns, because that's my other love is gunsmithing.
Okay.
And competing and shooting and stuff like that. That's a whole different side of me that a lot of my close friends know that about me.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it a lot because in the world we live in now, if you mention guns, you're going to get two different reactions. One of two. One, that's cool, man. What are you into? What do you like? I mean, what kind of disciplines are you working? Or, oh my God, he's a crazy redneck conservative left right-wing nut job. That's basically all you're going to get now.
Yeah.
There are my hardcore liberal buddies. I don't disagree with anybody on their political beliefs. Who cares? It doesn't affect me.
Right.
I'm not even going to get into politics on this podcast at all. But I have friends that accept me for who I am. Sure. And I can get along with them, even though their lifestyles are completely opposite of mine. Yeah. I'm here doing this podcast, and I canceled a hunt this morning. I should be deer hunting, hanging out of a tree in Dixon with a crossbow in my arms right now. I love the outdoors. Yeah. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a hunter. Yeah. I'm conservationist. Yeah. I'm not a big game slayer of animals for the fun of it. Yeah. I harvest all of my own meat, and my meat is, I promise you, is more healthy than anything you will buy in a grocery store. Right. Guaranteed.
No, this is good, man, because, dude, I spent a lot of time in Montana. Yeah. So I love the outdoors.
I do, too.
I'm not a hunter.
Yeah.
I used to own guns, but I don't anymore. Yeah. So, but what would you say, what's the third reaction that you would want from somebody? It's not a either or.
It's the reaction that I get from most of my friends that get it.
Well, you get
they're like, from most of your cool, man,
from most of your friends that know who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
Right.
They know me.
Right.
Guys like, I keep bringing up the same names, but like Tom and Kevin, Hearst, Murphy, Zach Stewart, the guys that I'm around the most, they know me. Yeah. They know that I'm a crazy redneck and always has a gun on him. That's just me. Yeah. But they know that I'm not some stupid idiot, and I'm very safe. I'm gun safety is of utmost importance to me because and I love building them. I love taking stuff apart and seeing how it works. Sure. I'm just as happy sitting on my bench vise at home, taking apart a Sig Sauer pistol as I am sitting behind a kit. I love both. I have more to me. I love surfing. I love downhill mountain biking.
Oh, me too.
All of that stuff. I have more. There's more. That's the problem is like I see guys get so frustrated in this town because their lives are engulfed with drumming or whatever it is they're choosing to do, whether it's a guitar player, bass player, singer, keyboards, drums, it doesn't matter. That's all they do. Yeah. And when they don't succeed at it, they get frustrated. because they have no other release, no other outlets of things they do. I think that helps me, because if it all ends tomorrow, I'm not going to be bitter like some people we know on social media nonstop whining about their lives. I will never do that.
Because you have all these
to the next thing.
You have all these other things going on.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that perspective, and I think that that's maybe not something we've covered in all these different episodes, and so I appreciate you bringing that up. It's good for me to hear, and I think it's good for a lot of other people to hear.
Yeah, I think so. And like you brought up, so many guys will fall into that trap hole.
Yeah.
Or trap or hole. I made up a new word. It's called trap hole. Trap hole.
Is that a hunting term? I don't know that, man.
Well, yeah, it could be. But yes, people will fall into that, and like you said, a lot of us are guilty of it. My approach to that it worked for me. Said I don't let any one thing define me.
No, and that's why I have you on here, man, is because what has worked for you, you know? And I don't know you real well.
Yeah.
But I've seen you play. I've hung out a little bit with you. So it's like, no, I need to talk to Russ. I need to find out what's his deal. And a couple questions I wanted to finish up with was, what advice do you have for people that want to get into this? And what is your future look like? And you've kind of answered both of those just then.
Yeah.
You're really like, look, I don't know what the future is, but I know I've got this and this going on, and life is good. I don't take any of it too seriously.
No. I'm just thankful that I've gotten to do what I've gotten to do.
Yeah.
Traveled the world.
Yeah.
I've played the stages I always wanted to play. Mm-hmm. I've seen it all, done it all, whether it was the military or music. I've been all over the world. I got more stamps in my freaking passport book, dude. You have no idea. Speaking of, guess where I'm spending New Year's Eve this year? In Qatar. Thank you. Yeah. Going to Qatar to play a New Year's Eve show with Craig Morgan.
Well, come on, man.
We do a lot for the military, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because we have this tour starts in 2 weeks. We actually go into production rehearsals tomorrow. That we're going to do literally a touring late night talk show is basically how it's going to be set up. Where our band's the house band. We do 45 minutes of Craig stuff. And then he's going to have couches and a desk out there on stage, and we're going to be interviewing people. We're having everybody from Taya Kyle, Chris Kyle, American Sniper's wife's going to be out with us. Marcus Luttrell, a lone survivor, who are all friends of ours, by the way, friends of Craig's, and I've gotten to meet them through him. A lot of Special Forces guys, Medal of Honor winners, Dakota Meyer, Clint Romachet, who's a really good buddy of mine. Some politicians, a lot of military guys, and they're going to tell stories of their life. And then, we'll back some of the Mac Powell from Third Days coming out with us.
Oh, cool.
Which would be really cool. And some other artists that they have yet to announce. We kind of know, but it's not really public knowledge right now, so I'll just stay away from that.
And you guys
don't call my phone and say, what the hell are you talking about?
And you guys have done, obviously, some USO stuff.
Oh, God, dude. I've been to Afghanistan 6 times with Craig.
Jesus.
In the heat of the shit, son.
Wow.
And I eat it up. I love it.
Wow.
And a lot of guys that you've interviewed have. I know Murphy's been over there a few times as well. And I know Tom has as well. But that stuff, because I've been there, same thing with Craig. I look forward to doing that USO stuff for the troops more than anything we do all year. Those are my favorite things to do. I don't care if I'm going into Chalk Valley or some of the hotter areas of Afghanistan. When me and Craig, the guys, go over, we will go to spots nobody else will go to because we know we're gonna get fired at. I don't care. Bring it on. I'm ready.
The FOBs.
Yeah, the forward operating bases. Yeah, we've been to some of the FOBs, and it's funny to me because I'll bring this up. I don't want to drag this interview out too long, but last year we went into Afghanistan, and we went to a FOB called Fob Shank. All right, this is one of the most dangerous bases. They were taking mortars as our helicopter was landing. All right,
jeez.
So this base got hit every day. Anybody stationed on that base knew they were going to take mortar rounds every morning about the same time. The Taliban is going to start shooting at them.
Yeah.
They shoot back for a few hours and it dies down. Hopefully nothing happens. Well, they lost a guy that morning.
Wow.
And we landed. We did our show. Went home. This was a year and a half ago, I think. And then I get to McGavick this year when we start cranking up for marching band competition season. And one of the marching techs was stationed at Shank and saw me play there with Craig.
Oh, wow.
And it's crazy to know that he's back home now.
Yeah.
About to go to Syria. You know, he's about to get shipped out again. But he went to McGavick High School and marched in the band there and came back to help, you know, with drill and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was at Shank, you know. He was there for, I think he was on a year deployment.
Wow.
Getting shot at every day, you know. And
that's crazy.
Here he is back screaming at kids with me, you know, and now he's about to go back to Syria. But you never know whose path you're going to cross. And
right.
I've got friends that I've met on these trips in Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, wherever we're going, that I still talk to this day. Yeah. You know, military guys. Guys I didn't serve with, guys that I met while I was over there with Craig.
Right, right.
You know?
And you have a military background. Now, I had a chance to go there in 2001.
Yeah.
April of 2001.
Yeah.
In Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. And
so, April 2001, you were pre 9/11, and you were Kuwait and Saudi were. Saudi was cranking back up at that time.
Yeah.
Kuwait, since the first Desert Storm, has been, you know, basically we have a military base there. You know, I don't know if you know how Kuwait works, but they don't have a standing army.
Right, right.
They pay us to keep a military base in Kuwait.
Right.
You know, after everything that happened in 91 and 92.
It was a good experience for me, not having any military experience.
Nashville now. Seriously, it's Starbucks and McDonald's and Hardee's and Cracker Barrel and or not Cracker Barrel, but TGI Fridays, Applebee's, all that stuff's over there.
I think they had a KFC there too.
They have lots of KFCs.
Yeah, right.
They love their Kentucky Fried Chicken in Kuwait. Let me tell you. But we always stayed at the same hotel over at Movenpick on the beach right there in Kuwait. And every time we go there, we always stay at that hotel. But it's so funny because there's a Starbucks in the front, and these Kuwaiti nationals. I don't know if you realize this. They don't have to work.
Oh,
Once they turn 18, they get millions every year for being a national.
Right. Because of the oil revenue.
Oil revenues. And so it's funny. They just sit around and they drink Starbucks and drive their Ferraris around all day. They don't have to work. The only people that work in that country are international to live in there to work.
Sure.
If you were born and raised in Kuwait, you do not work.
It's like that in Saudi Arabia.
You're loaded from birth. I don't know if Saudi Arabia is like that. It may be.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you got to go over there and see it. You know?
Well, what I was going to say was the thing that was great for me was to meet all the military personnel there, and they had lost some people in one of the bases we were at, and that gave me a healthy perspective. Even at that time, we're talking at a pretty peaceful time at that point. Yeah. Still. The SS Cole had just been bombed, so security was still tight, but it was still pre-9/11.
Yeah.
But that was really good. For me, somebody with no military background or experience, to go see guys my age, guys and girls my age, and just like really missing home, and us coming there sharing something with them. I felt really honored, and I still have the certificate. I keep it in my practice room. I still have the coins they gave me. I still have pictures. I love that experience. You know, not being a military guy, it gave me a healthy perspective on that. I really, and so I'm sure that you have all that stuff.
Any
too.
little bit that you can give those guys to take their mind off of it for an hour. Is worth it. It's worth the trip over there. You know, some of these people are like, man, I wouldn't go over there for nothing. You know, I've got one word for you, buddy. You know what I mean? You give it back. You know, don't be a pussy. Yeah. You know, most of the time, it's different for us because Craig likes doing dangerous shit. So we're all a bunch of thrill-seeking idiots that we will probably put ourselves in situations we probably shouldn't, but we don't care. But most of the guys that go over there, it's a funny. You know, the last time we were over there, I don't know if I should say his name or not, 50 Cent was over there the week before us. They took rounds. He wouldn't even get off the helicopter. They flew him right back. The man that's been shot 7 or 10 times, how many times he got shot and gangbang and lived, got over there and pissed himself the first time around, went flying by him. And I get it. He's gun shy. He's been shot before.
Right. But still.
But he wouldn't even perform for the troops and left and came back home.
Wow.
Man, it just, whatever, everybody's got their own
sure
life path. But, you go over there, there's always a chance of something happening. There's a chance of something happening when I leave this interview and drive back to my house.
I know.
You can't dwell on that,
Well, man, I appreciate you coming into the hot zone here in the villages of Brentwood.
I got a mic in front of my mouth. Honestly, I think this might be the second interview I've ever done. So it's like, I told my wife, I was like, I don't know what he's going to ask me. I don't even know why anybody want to hear anything I have to say, but I'll go do it,
No, man, you come from so many different angles as far as what you've experienced and what has gotten you to this point and what is giving you the perspective on how you're going to handle things from here on out. Yeah. And that's exactly what we like to talk about.
Yeah.
We're not talking diddles, man.
Yeah.
Or, we're talking
probably plenty of interviewers that you've done where the guys probably sit here and talk about groove and what drum heads and cymbals they use and stuff. I'm sure it's happening. There's a million.
Well, I'll steer it the other way around. Yeah, for sure. Because what you're saying,
it's a different kind of animal, which is why I'm doing it.
Right.
If it was just something about talking gear and what lick you played on this song live or whatever, I care nothing about that, man. That's not me.
But Russ, what you're talking about, man, is stuff that I need to hear. I'm older than you.
Yeah.
I'm in a different place in my life as well, but the things that you're talking about is good. It's good for me to know, because there's just so much shit right now that's going on.
Yeah, that it's a crazy world right now.
Right. Man. So to keep your perspective on how you're going to, continue to play music or continue to just enjoy what you're doing in life is good. Yeah. So, dude, I appreciate taking the time and being here, man. Did you get enough coffee?
Oh, yeah. I think I'm good.
I'll have a South Carolina mug for you. Hey, thanks, Russ.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, man.
Sure.
Thanks for taking the time out to listen to my ramblings.
So there was my conversation with Russ. I think Russ was concerned about his forwardness and style of speaking that might be offensive to some. I thought it was real. And the one takeaway that I personally felt was important with my interview with him today was this. His ability to recognize his self-worth beyond the drums and not letting his playing define who he is as an individual. And I think that this is a healthy perspective that I personally feel is important to have these days. I've seen Russ play, and I can tell you that it certainly doesn't affect his level of performance. If anything, it might make him better. Might make him a better drummer and musician overall. As always, my thanks goes to Mike Jackson for his technical help and musical production advice, as you'll be hearing coming up with some things we're working on. Stay tuned for Zach Albetta's interview with another great drummer. And I appreciate everyone's input and just participating in this podcast. And I hope to see you around. Bye-bye.